When discussing iconic tough guys in Hollywood, there is one name that immediately comes to mind: Lee Marvin. But there's far more to the celebrated American actor than simply being known for his stoic, tough guy persona. Lee Marvin's life story is as multifaceted as his career, full of surprising twists, difficult decisions, and unparalleled resilience. The untold truths about Marvin's journey offer an intriguing glimpse into a man who defied the odds, on the battlefield, in his personal life, and in the entertainment industry. Born on February 24, 1924 in New York City, Marvin's early life wasn't the stuff of typical Hollywood fairy tales. His parents, Lamont Waltman Marvin, a World War I veteran, and fashion designer Courtney Washington, had no idea that their son would one day become a towering figure in the film industry. But Lee's path to stardom wasn't without its obstacles. As a young boy, Marvin struggled with ADHD and dyslexia, which made school difficult and left him feeling frustrated with the traditional education system. Despite his academic challenges, he had a keen interest in music and took up the violin, though it's clear that his heart wasn't in it. During his childhood, he developed a love for outdoor activities, especially hunting in the Everglades, where he spent his weekends hunting deer and wild turkeys. This was an early indication of his independent, adventurous spirit, a trait that would come to define his future. As Marvin entered his teenage years, his rebellious nature took hold. His penchant for smoking and brawling led to several expulsions from schools. But instead of breaking him, these experiences seemed to fuel his desire for something more. He attended a Christian socialist boarding school in New York, and later spent time at the Peekskill Military Academy, both of which helped to mold his character, though it was clear that a bit of rowdiness still lingered. Then everything changed. In 1942, as World War II raged across the globe, Marvin answered the call to serve his country. Despite his father's objections, who, as a Marine veteran, worried for his son's safety, Marvin enlisted in the United States Marine Corps on August 2, 1942. His time in the Marines would prove to be both life-changing and life-threatening. Serving as a scout sniper in the 4th Marine Division, Marvin participated in some of the bloodiest and most brutal battles of the Pacific Theater, including the bloody campaigns on Saipan and Iwo Jima. During the Battle of Saipan on June 18, 1944, Marvin's life would forever change. A bullet struck his sciatic nerve, leaving him severely wounded and requiring over a year of medical treatment. Marvin's time in the war was harrowing, and it would leave physical and emotional scars, but it also earned him several medals for valor, including a Purple Heart, the Presidential Unit Citation, and the Combat Action Ribbon. While his military career ended with a medical discharge, it was clear that the lessons Marvin learned in the Marines about discipline, toughness, and resilience would serve him well in his future endeavors. It was in the Marines that Marvin would later reflect on what shaped his career as an actor. In an interview with Robert Ward, he famously stated, "It was the Marines who taught me how to act." This lesson in acting was unconventional, but it proved essential as Marvin transitioned from military service to Hollywood's glitzy yet demanding world. Marvin's life took a pivotal turn after his service. Returning to civilian life, he initially took up a job as a plumber's assistant in Woodstock, New York. But destiny had something different in store for him. One day, while on the job, Marvin was asked to fill in for an actor who had fallen ill during rehearsals. That fateful opportunity sparked a passion for acting, and Marvin soon found himself deep into the world of theater. Though his initial roles were small and often uncredited, Marvin began to carve out a niche for himself. His military background and imposing presence quickly found a home in Hollywood's gritty, action-packed roles. Marvin's breakthrough in Hollywood came in 1951 when he appeared in the film You're in the Navy Now, a war comedy that also marked the film debuts of Jack Warden and Charles Bronson. Despite being relatively unknown at the time, Marvin's performance caught the attention of filmmakers. His rugged demeanor and commanding presence made him a natural for military and authoritative roles. By the same year, he had small roles in Teresa and The 19th Hole, but it wasn't until the early 1950s that Marvin's career truly began to take off. In 1953, Marvin appeared in several films that helped solidify his place in Hollywood's emerging landscape. In particular, his role as Vince Stone, the antagonist in the film noir The Big Heat, brought him widespread acclaim. The same year, he also starred opposite Marlon Brando in The Wild one of the most iconic American crime films of its time. In The Wild One, Marvin portrayed Chino, the leader of a gang of rebellious motorcyclists, a role that played to his strengths as a tough, no-nonsense actor. By the mid-1950s, Marvin had become a fixture in Hollywood. He was regularly cast in films with tough guy roles, whether as military officers, criminals, or lawmen. But his true star turn came with the 1965 film Cat Ballou, a Western comedy in which he portrayed the infamous outlaw, Kid Shelleen. His performance in Cat Ballou earned him an Academy Award for Best Actor, making him one of the few actors to win an Oscar while maintaining his tough guy persona. This unexpected triumph underscored the depth of Marvin's talent, proving that he was more than just a typecast actor. Marvin's career continued to flourish through the 1960s and 1970s, with major roles in films like The Professionals, 1966, Point Blank, 1967, and The Dirty Dozen, 1967. Despite his fame, Marvin's personal life remained relatively private. He was known to keep a low profile, preferring to spend time on his ranch in Arizona, away from the incessant attention of Hollywood. His personal philosophy was to live life on his own terms, a sentiment that was reflected in his acting choices and his public persona. Even though he was a major star, Marvin was never one to chase fame for the sake of fame. One of the most remarkable aspects of Marvin's career was his ability to bring depth and nuance to roles that might have otherwise been one-dimensional. He didn't simply play tough guys. He played tough guys with heart, vulnerability, and a sense of purpose. Whether it was as a grizzled soldier, a hardened criminal, or a world-weary lawman, Marvin imbued his characters with a complexity that made them memorable. This ability to tap into the humanity of his roles was part of what made him such a beloved actor. Marvin's later years were marked by his continued work in film and television. Though his health began to decline in the 1980s, he eventually retired from acting, spending the rest of his years away from the public eye. Marvin passed away on August 29, 1987, at the age of 63, leaving behind a legacy that would influence generations of actors. His performances, marked by their grit and authenticity, continue to resonate with audiences to this day. In conclusion, Lee Marvin's story is one of extraordinary resilience. From his tumultuous childhood to his service in World War II, his breakthrough in Hollywood, and his eventual recognition as one of the most iconic tough guy actors in history, Marvin's life was anything but ordinary. His journey reminds us that behind every tough exterior is a person who has faced hardships, overcome obstacles, and found a way to thrive. Lee Marvin may have been known for his cold, hard exterior, but his legacy lives on as a testament to the power of resilience, talent, and the human spirit. When the name Lee Marvin is mentioned, most of us instantly think of tough guy roles in films, rugged, no-nonsense characters that seem to exude authority and confidence. But Lee Marvin's story goes far beyond the tough exterior he portrayed on screen. It's a tale of resilience, complexity, and a life filled with contradictions. From his military service to his Oscar-winning performances, Marvin's journey is one that reveals more than just the man behind the movies. Born on February 24, 1924, in New York City, Lee Marvin grew up in a household that, by all accounts, was far from ordinary. His father, Lamont Waltman Marvin, a World War I veteran, and his mother, Courtney Washington, a fashion designer, were likely unaware that their son would one day become one of Hollywood's most iconic tough guys. As a child, Marvin struggled with ADH and dyslexia, making school difficult and leaving him at odds with traditional education. But his early challenges didn't define him. Instead, they laid the foundation for a future filled with obstacles he would learn to navigate, whether on the battlefield or in front of the camera. Marvin's love of adventure began in his youth. He was an outdoorsman who spent his weekends hunting wild turkeys, bobwhite, and deer in the Everglades. This rough-and-tumble upbringing would later influence the type of characters he portrayed on screen. But his rebellious nature also led to trouble. He was expelled from several schools for bad behavior and vices, which included smoking and fighting. But it was during his time at St. Leo College in Florida that a pivotal moment came, one that would forever change the course of his life. In 1942, as World War II raged on, Marvin answered the call to serve his country by enlisting in the United States Marine Corps. Despite his father's objections, Marvin was determined to serve. His military experience would prove to be life-altering, not just because of the horrors he witnessed, but because it would shape his future career in acting. Marvin served as a scout sniper in the Pacific Theater, participating in some of the most brutal battles, including the Battle of Saipan. During one of these harrowing campaigns, Marvin was severely wounded by machine gun fire, injuring his sciatic nerve and foot. After spending over a year recovering from his injuries, Marvin was given a medical discharge, but not before earning multiple honors, including the Purple Heart, the Combat Action Ribbon, and the Presidential Unit Citation. As remarkable as his military service was, Marvin always credited his time in the Marines with teaching him how to act. In an interview, he stated, "It was the Marines who taught me how to act." After that, pretending to be rough wasn't so hard. This lesson, learned in the heat of battle, would serve him well as he transitioned from a military man to a Hollywood actor. His experiences in the Marines helped him embody the tough guy persona that would define much of his career. Upon returning to civilian life, Marvin initially worked as a plumber's assistant in Woodstock, New York, before serendipitously stumbling into acting. While working on a job, he was asked to fill in for an actor who had fallen ill during rehearsals. Marvin's natural charisma and rugged charm caught the attention of the producers, and he soon developed a passion for acting. It wasn't long before he was enrolled in the American Theater Wing in New York, where he studied under the GI Bill, a program that provided educational benefits to returning veterans. Marvin's early acting career was filled with small, often uncredited roles, but it didn't take long for his distinctive presence to be noticed. Marvin made his film debut in 1951 in You're in the Navy Now, a war comedy where he starred alongside Jack Warden and Charles Bronson, both of whom were making their own film debuts. The film's success marked the beginning of Marvin's rise to prominence, though his true breakout moment came in 1953 with his role as the villainous Vince Stone in the film The Big Heat. This role, along with a starring turn in The Wild One opposite Marlon Brando, solidified Marvin's status as a Hollywood heavyweight. In The Wild One, Marvin played Chino, the leader of a gang of rebellious motorcyclists, a role that epitomized the tough, no-nonsense persona he had cultivated. The 1950s were a turning point for Marvin's career. His performances as hardened criminals and military men made him a natural fit for tough guy roles. But it wasn't until the 1965 film Cat Ballou that he truly showed his range as an actor. In this comedic western, Marvin portrayed two contrasting characters, Kid Shalene, a drunken, bumbling gunfighter, and Tim Strawn, a ruthless assassin. The dual roles allowed Marvin to showcase both his comedic timing and his ability to portray cold, menacing characters. The film was a critical and commercial success, and Marvin won an Academy Award for Best Actor for his performance. What's perhaps most remarkable about Marvin's acceptance speech is how he humorously dedicated the award to a horse, a comment that drew laughter from the audience. Following Cat Ballou, Marvin continued to build on his success with notable roles in films like The Professionals, 1966, and Point Blank, 1967, a hard-nosed crime film that allowed Marvin to portray a vengeful criminal. His success during this period was marked by his ability to adapt to a variety of roles, from westerns to crime dramas, all while maintaining his reputation as one of Hollywood's toughest leading men. The 1960s were a time when Marvin was in high demand, and his career was firmly on the rise. But as the 1970s dawned, Marvin began to explore more complex roles that strayed from the tough guy archetype he had become famous for. Films like Prime Cut, 1972, and Emperor of the North, 1973, showed Marvin as a man of more depth, grappling with moral ambiguity and personal demons. Despite his growing reputation as an actor of substance, Marvin never lost the gruff charm that had made him a household name. Throughout his career, Marvin's personal life was just as intriguing as his on-screen presence. Known for being private and selective about the company he kept, Marvin once said, "I can't stand myself. If I could, I'd play the same guy in all my roles. I don't even like my own company." His relationships, too, were complicated and tumultuous. Marvin's first marriage, to Betty Ebling in 1952, lasted 15 years before ending in divorce in 1967. Despite their split, the couple continued to live together for several years afterward, raising their 4 children. After his marriage to Ebling ended, Marvin became involved with actress Michelle Triola. The two lived together for several years, but their relationship ended in one of Hollywood's most infamous legal battles, the palimony lawsuit. Triola claimed that after 6 years together, Marvin had promised her the same financial support as a wife would receive, but failed to deliver. She also alleged that Marvin had paid for 2 abortions and that one of their pregnancies ended in a miscarriage. The lawsuit, which garnered significant media attention, added another layer of complexity to Marvin's personal life and painted a picture of a man struggling with the pressures of fame and relationships. Despite his turbulent personal life, Marvin's professional career continued to thrive. In his later years, he appeared in films like The Iceman Cometh, 1973, and The Klansman, 1974, showing that he had more to offer than just his tough guy image. However, as the years went by, Marvin began to step away from the spotlight, choosing to spend more time on his ranch in Arizona. Lee Marvin passed away on August 29, 1987, at the age of 63, leaving behind a legacy of tough guy roles that defined an era of Hollywood film. His career was a testament to his ability to embody a wide range of characters, from ruthless villains to vulnerable men searching for redemption. While his off-screen life may have been complicated, his on-screen presence was undeniable. Lee Marvin remains an enduring figure in Hollywood, a symbol of toughness, resilience, and the ability to break free from typecasting. In the end, Lee Marvin's legacy is far more than just the tough roles he played. He was a man who defied the odds in both his personal and professional life, overcoming immense challenges to leave an indelible mark on Hollywood. His story serves as a reminder that behind every tough exterior is a person who has faced hardships, fought through adversity, and emerged victorious. Whether on the battlefield or on screen, Lee Marvin's resilience is a testament to the power of determination and the human spirit. Lee Marvin's journey through Hollywood is one that reflects both the meteoric rise and the often stark realities of fame. Born in 1924, Marvin became the embodiment of the tough guy image in Hollywood, his iconic roles often portraying gritty, no-nonsense characters. Yet, beneath that exterior lay a complex individual, one who lived a life filled with contradictions, triumphs and personal battles, achievements and controversies. The path that led him from the battlefields of World War II to the silver screen is a testament to his resilience, but it also reveals the darker sides of his personal struggles. The story of Lee Marvin and his relationships is, in many ways, as tumultuous as his acting career. Perhaps no relationship encapsulates his complex life more than his involvement with Michelle Triola. In the 1960s, Triola and Marvin began a 6-year cohabitation that would make headlines for years to come. While their relationship wasn't formalized through marriage, the public's interest grew when Triola filed a palimony lawsuit in the early 1970s seeking compensation after their breakup. Despite the fact that no formal contract had been signed between the two, Triola's claim for part of Marvin's nearly $4 million earnings was met with intense legal scrutiny. She argued that the couple's years together should entitle her to a share of his wealth. The court, however, ruled in Marvin's favor, stating that non-marital relationship contracts did not hold the same legal weight as marriage, and no such contract existed in their case. The result? The case was dismissed, leaving Triola with nothing. Yet the drama didn't end there. Triola's public lawsuit against Marvin painted a picture of a tumultuous and emotionally charged relationship. Triola claimed that Marvin had paid for 2 abortions and that one of her pregnancies ended in a miscarriage, which allegedly left her unable to bear children. This was a bitter chapter for both, one that added layers to Marvin's public image and revealed a side of him that wasn't often seen in the limelight. After her time with Marvin, Triola later entered a relationship with actor Dick Van Dyke, and she spent the rest of her life as his companion until her death in 2009 from lung cancer. Marvin's romantic entanglements were just one part of his story. His second and final marriage to Pamela Fee in 1970 marked a more stable period in his life. The two had known each other since childhood, and their marriage endured until Marvin's untimely death in 1987. Despite his chaotic personal life and battles with addiction, Fee was the one constant in his later years, providing him with a semblance of stability. Their relationship, though relatively private, was a testament to Marvin's more introspective side, one that sought a quiet refuge away from the tumult of Hollywood. By the 1980s, Lee Marvin's career was on the decline. His fame, which had reached its zenith in the 1960s, started to wane as Hollywood's landscape changed. Nevertheless, his reputation as a top-tier actor continued to open doors. In 1980, Marvin starred in The Big Red One, an epic war film by Samuel Fuller, which garnered critical acclaim. But as the years went by, his roles became less frequent, and the projects he took on were often met with limited commercial success. Films like Death Hunt, Gorky Park, and Dog Day did not achieve the same level of box office success as his earlier work. Marvin's career, though, was far from ordinary. Known for his portrayal of authoritative figures, his gravitas was undeniable, but he was not without his flaws. A story that has become part of Hollywood lore involved Marvin's on-set antics during the filming of The Dirty Dozen, 1967. While working on the film, Marvin's struggles with alcoholism became apparent. One infamous story involves a day of filming when Marvin, expected to drive a truck alongside Charles Bronson's character, disappeared. It was later discovered that Marvin had gone to a pub, thoroughly intoxicated. The crew had to scramble to sober him up before filming could continue, and an angry Bronson confronted Marvin, threatening to kill him. While this may sound like the stuff of legend, it speaks to the complexity of Marvin's personal life, where his addiction often came into conflict with his professional obligations. Lee Marvin's legacy in Hollywood is forever linked to his portrayal of tough, complex characters, men hardened by war, personal loss, and the challenges of life. He became the archetypal bad boy in films, bringing a depth to his roles that went beyond the typical tough guy persona. Yet behind this on-screen bravado, Marvin led a life filled with contradictions, complexities, and struggles that ultimately defined him as a Hollywood legend. One of his most iconic roles was that of Major John Reisman in The Dirty Dozen, 1967, a film that solidified his place in Hollywood history. The movie, which follows a group of misfit soldiers tasked with a dangerous mission during World War II, was not only a box office hit, but also a critical success. Marvin's performance as the commanding officer of this band of misfits was a standout in a film populated with legendary actors like Charles Bronson, John Cassavetes, and Jim Brown. His ability to lead and command the screen in such a volatile role showcased his remarkable range as an actor. The Dirty Dozen remains a cultural touchstone, celebrated for its gritty portrayal of men pushed to their limits, and it is Marvin's performance that gives the film its backbone. While The Dirty Dozen is perhaps the most famous of his works, Marvin's career was not without its challenges. By the mid-1980s, the actor, once synonymous with tough guy roles, began to see his star power fade. In the last years of his life, his career was marred by a series of health complications, which ultimately led to his death. In December 1986, he was hospitalized for over 2 weeks due to coccidioidomycosis, a fungal infection he had contracted earlier. His health continued to decline, and in August 1987, Lee Marvin passed away at the age of 63 from a heart attack. His death marked the end of a fascinating career that had not only shaped Hollywood, but also captured the complexities of the human spirit. The manner of his passing was also symbolic of his life's values. Marvin was given full military honors at his funeral, his service to the United States recognized in a manner that had nothing to do with his fame as an actor. At Arlington National Cemetery, Marvin's gravestone reads simply, Lee Marvin, PFC, Marine Corps, World War II. There is no mention of his career in Hollywood, as Marvin had always placed greater importance on his military service than his achievements as an actor. He often maintained a public persona that was distant from the glamour of Hollywood, and his personal life was often marked by a quiet disdain for the trappings of fame. Marvin's reluctance to embrace the superficiality of Hollywood stardom is reflected in one of his most famous quotes about fame. They put your name on a star on the sidewalk on Hollywood Boulevard, and you walk down and find a pile of dog manure on it. That tells the whole story, baby. This cynical remark reveals his disillusionment with the fleeting nature of stardom and the way Hollywood chews up and spits out its stars. For Marvin, fame was a fleeting and hollow pursuit. What truly mattered was his authenticity, his integrity, and his work ethic, qualities that made him a respected figure in Hollywood, even as his personal struggles continued behind the scenes. Marvin's life wasn't just about his roles in front of the camera. It was about his ability to navigate the chaos of fame and personal turmoil. Despite his reputation as a Hollywood tough guy, Marvin's journey was one of internal struggle and resilience. He faced addiction, turbulent relationships, and the pressure of an industry that often placed its stars on a pedestal only to let them fall. Yet, Marvin never allowed Hollywood's superficiality to define him. He was always more concerned with authenticity, both in his work and in his personal life. This focus on integrity made him one of the most respected actors of his time. His career, which began in the mid-1950s, was marked by a series of memorable performances in iconic films such as Cat Ballou, 1965, for which he won an Academy Award for Best Actor. In Cat Ballou, Marvin's portrayal of the ruthless, noseless villain Tim Strawn and the comedic drunken gunslinger Kid Shalene showcased his incredible range. Playing two characters in the same film, Marvin was able to show the full breadth of his acting ability. His portrayal of Kid Shalene, a man who starts off as a bumbling alcoholic failure but ultimately rises to the occasion, was a revelation to audiences. The film's success further solidified Marvin's status as one of Hollywood's leading men. By the 1970s, Marvin had become a fixture in westerns and action films. His role in The Professionals, 1966, where he starred alongside Burt Lancaster, was another successful project. He followed this with Point Blank, 1967, a gritty crime film that gave him a chance to explore the darker side of his character. While these films were successful, Marvin's career trajectory began to change as the 1970s wore on. He found himself starring in a number of lesser-known films, but he never fully receded from the public eye. Despite the decline in his commercial success, Marvin remained a respected figure in Hollywood. His portrayal of Major John Reisman in The Dirty Dozen had set the stage for his subsequent roles, and his ability to bring complex, layered characters to life made him a favorite among critics. His reputation as a tough, no-nonsense actor was matched only by his reputation as a man who lived life on his own terms. He was known for his deep voice, his stoic demeanor, and his ability to command the screen. But behind that tough exterior was a man who struggled with the same demons that many of his characters faced: addiction, personal loss, and the disillusionment of fame. One of the most fascinating aspects of Marvin's legacy is how he managed to stay true to himself despite the overwhelming pressures of Hollywood. While many actors crumbled under the weight of fame, Marvin maintained a degree of control over his personal life and his career. He was known for being highly selective about his roles and for avoiding the Hollywood parties and events that many of his peers reveled in. He valued his privacy and preferred the company of working stiffs on set, including stuntmen, gaffers, and prop men. It was these behind-the-scenes figures who kept him grounded, and Marvin's ability to form genuine relationships with these unsung heroes of the film industry speaks to his authenticity. Marvin's personal life, like his career, was marked by turbulence. He was married twice, the first time to Betty Ebling in 1952. The couple had 4 children, and despite their divorce in 1967, they maintained a close relationship for 15 years. Marvin's second marriage was to his childhood sweetheart, Pamela Fee, in 1970. Their marriage lasted until Marvin's death in 1987, providing him with a sense of stability in his later years. Marvin's tumultuous relationship with Michelle Triola, his live-in girlfriend from 1965 to 1970, remains one of the most publicized aspects of his personal life. After their breakup, Triola filed a highly publicized palimony lawsuit, demanding a share